Are you one of the many busy professionals working in offices day in and day out? Do you wonder how some people grow their wealth fast, retire early, and play on workdays? Well, you're in luck, because Ginny Bolling hosts this show, Pivot to Prosperity, where she interviews people that can do just that. Play on workdays. Many guests have become financially free. She also interviews people that are on their journey and people that are in support roles, like attorneys, contractors, brokers, and others. Commercial real estate is the common element. She is on a mission to be sure busy professionals know they can own substantial commercial properties too, like apartments, self-storage facilities, and others, and not have to do the work managing them. Passive investing is the key. Syndications are the typical method. Tax write-offs are some of the biggest rewards. Ginny and partners find the deals, build a strong team and business plan, then offer the investment opportunities to passive investors. New episodes are released every Tuesday at 12, so watch for new releases. If you want to get involved, let us know. You need to get pre-qualified to hear about most deals. See the show notes for contact information.
Hello. Ginny Bolling here from Pivot to Prosperity, brought to you by Pivotal Real Estate Investments, where we help investors build wealth and income through commercial real estate that also improves communities. And today we have Phil Georges as our guest. Thank you for coming on, Phil.
Thank you for having me.
We have known each other since 2017. I met you at CFRI, Central Florida Realty Investors, which is our local RIA, right?
Yes.
That's the biggest RIA in the country, as I understand it, in fact.
The biggest nonprofit RIA in America.
And yeah, that's a big thing to say. And it's because of the leadership, and you have been leading the commercial and multifamily group there since then, and still today. I assist passively. And
I say you're more than passive in your assistance.
well, I appreciate being able to get involved, and I really commend you for your commitment. And that's a long time to be leading that group, and I know a lot of people really enjoy coming to those meetings. So I would like you to go ahead and tell people how you ended up getting into real estate, and then perhaps touch on that first deal. Got to talk about that one.
Okay. Well, I first got into real estate because the short version is I saw a late night infomercial by Albert Lowry. Don't know if he's still around, but I got a chance to be on his stage when he came to Florida 5 or 6, 7 years ago and inspired his students. But nonetheless, I went to this infomercial as a 24-year-old, and it said I could be a millionaire overnight. Didn't quite work out that way, which led me to buying my first property in Brooklyn, New York, which was a 6-family shell. And for those out there that don't know what a shell is, it means it has no windows, no doors, no kitchens, no baths, rickety stairs, and the like. And that was my first investment.
All right, and tell how that ended up.
Well, since you know the story before your audience, having gone to a weekend boot camp, which is all the knowledge I had in real estate at the time, and being a brash 24-year-old thinking I can do everything, I bought this property. I hired a few contractors to give me estimates. And finally, one of the contractors came to me and said, "Young man, you have a problem." And I said, "What's the problem?" And he said, "Well, it's going to cost you about $150,000 in 1985 dollars to repair it." And I said, "Okay, that's what all the other contractors said." And he said, "No, that's not your problem. Your problem is when I finish fixing it for $150,000, it will be worth $125,000. And I said, "What?" Because of course, back then I didn't know anything about comps or rent bumps or anything like that. I did my research from there. I tried to apply for the 203K program and everything else. At the end, what I did is I walked away. And back payments piled up. And one day I got a letter from the city, and the property was eminent domain. It is currently a park today. So anyone who lives in Brooklyn on St. Mark's, that park is part of my history.
That's so
But I
funny.
avoided a foreclosure, so that's the good news.
You did avoid foreclosure. Yes, that's the good news. And I was going to say you were condemned. I don't ever hear anybody say eminent domain, but yeah, I guess some people do say that. But as you know, that's my background. So
Yeah. Yeah, the city
condemned.
sent eminent domain letter. They were taking over the property. And, the whole block besides my property was pretty bad shape, and mine was just in bad shape as well.
Yeah. Wow. So you went from there. What was your second property?
My second property was single family. From there, I went deep dive on learning, and I didn't buy another property for 4 years because I was just learning. And I began buying single family properties, at a pretty rapid clip once I learned, because I was buying them in Camden, New Jersey. Um, they were very cheap and easy to fix. And I learned, basically the real estate business by buying single families.
Yeah. Well, fast forward, and you've been doing a lot of things over the years. I know because of the monthly classes we have, and that you talk to the group. What would you say has been your most rewarding acquisition?
Wow. Rewarding acquisition. I mean, I could point to the project I have behind me. I have my screen blurred, and unblur for a second, but up there is a 50-unit project that myself and a partner um, purchased, which was a city block worth of warehouse space, and we converted it to Class A rentals and 9 retail spaces.
Nice. And do you go see it nowadays when you're in the area?
Nowadays, I go probably once a year, and I go chit chat with my partner. My partner was my property manager on some multifamily I owned in the same town. And he came to me one day and said, would I want to invest in this project? And if I would put up the money, he would do the management. And that's what I did. I put up the money. We purchased the property. We got grants from the state, and we sold tax credits, which funded a major portion of the project.
Nice. Yeah, so you've been through a lot of that stuff then.
Hmm.
And how long ago was that, Phil?
2015.
Oh, okay. Not that
Yeah,
long ago, really. Yeah,
yeah,
10 years ago.
yep.
And how long did you hold it?
We still own it.
Oh, you still own it. Oh,
Still own it.
nice.
Yeah.
And so what kind of retail is down there? Is it restaurants or?
It's mostly restaurants. We have, let me think through it. We've got a pizzeria, we've got a bar, we've got another bar, we've got an art studio, we've got a restaurant, we have a hair salon, and I think we have one vacancy right now.
Nice. I love mixed use. I really do. And I
Yeah,
hope to be a part of it right here in Orlando.
yeah.
So, but any advice for people looking to do mixed use?
Mixed use is very exciting. I've owned quite a few over my career. New York has a lot of mixed use. So, and for those who don't know out there what mixed use is, it means it's retail at the bottom and residential up top. And it's very popular in New York, simply because of the way the city is laid out.
So was it, well, have you ever done it in Florida?
I've never had a mixed use in Florida. I've looked for them, but they're not a lot and they're not common in Florida.
Right.
Generally you have flat retail or you
Yeah.
got all or residential. Now downtown Orlando, Orange Avenue has some,
Yeah. More and
but
more.
yeah.
Right. So I'm in North Orlando. Maitland has done a lot of developments more recently that have the retail down on the first floor. And yeah, I'm looking to do some of that because I'm very into urban renewal. So, and like to combine some of that. But so, how about new construction? Have you done any new construction?
Never done new construction.
Yeah,
But you
yeah,
can call the project we did new construction because we took vacant warehouse space and made Class A apartments out of it. So there's really not much in there but floors
yeah.
and stairways. And now, we have Class A apartments. So it's
That
kind of
is,
new construction. We didn't have to build the outside or the floors, but everything else was built, all the walls, all the HVAC, all the electrical, plumbing, everything was done from scratch. So
yeah, those are really cool too. The style can be really nice. Especially if it's a throwback. I don't know. Do you still have that warehouse influence there at all?
it does. It has high ceilings and exposed ductwork.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it has that component to it.
Yeah, up north you see a lot of that, and I definitely, yeah, would like something like that. So as far as what you're into now, what are you currently working on?
Currently, I'm working on probably buying more multifamily, and I'm also raising funds for a major project next to the Halifax Hospital in Deltona, and and it's a big project. It's going to take several years, but that's what I'm working on right now.
You want to tell us a little more about it?
It's going to be a wellness campus, so to speak. So it's next to the hospital, no, Halifax Hospital. I'm working with the developer, and what it will become, it's going to be independent living, assisted living, a wellness center, um, and and one or two other components of wellness. The idea is it's going to extend life by having someone move in perhaps when they're in their 50s, when they're still independent, fully functioning, and perhaps when they get a little older, they'll move into the assisted living. But in the meantime, the wellness center will be there for them to stay healthy, where a lot of the services are right on campus. And should at any point they become ill, the hospital's across the street. And the quicker you get to a hospital, the more likely your life can be saved and extended.
Yeah, that's terrific information. You were saying before we started recording too that studies show that the closer you are to a hospital, the longer you're apt to live.
Right,
That's the
because a lot of times people, pass on because the time that emergency services get there and get you there, you don't you lose valuable time.
right. And I think you were talking also two generations could live there easily. It's suited for the
Yeah,
family.
because I mean, ideally, let's say you're 50 and you decide that you want to move in there, and your parents are, 75, they could live there as well and extend life. So that's the whole goal.
Well, and I see so much now with the um the Gen Z and millennials trying to do workout recovery. It's not just go work out like what I grew up with, or go do something and then, you don't think about it after you stop. They think about it. They hydrate properly. They will eat within the 1 hour of the right food to nourish their bodies. They'll do the cold plunges. They'll do the red light therapy, all that stuff.
I
And
know I didn't speak to all of that, but there's a prototype in Lake Nona right now
oh,
where
really?
there's a phone app and a watch or monitoring system that gives you I mean, next level care. And it's, unlike anything that you're seeing now, unless you're down there. but it knows your previous workout. It knows how much exertion you need for this workout, and it projects what you should eat versus what you've eaten yesterday. It understands all of that. So it's going to extend your life because you're going to be there working out. You're going to be there going for a swim, and you're going to have this monitoring device that will assist you in understanding your body and how to further extend your living.
So it's going to be like state of the art wellness world.
Yes. Yes.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see a lot more of that popping up too. But when you've got something that's going to be, this is, I think you said the developer's second prototype.
Yes. Hmm.
Is it a prototype?
Yes.
I see. Yeah, that'll be interesting. So you're raising money for that. This is a 506c, I think you said, right?
Yes.
So that's why we can talk about it. So anybody out there that's listening should definitely reach out and talk to Phil about that.
They say this is a cocktail investment, and I had to ask what that was. And a cocktail investment is the kind of investment that you invest in because you want to brag about it at a cocktail party. So that's what a cocktail investment is. I recently learned that. But this is something, it's not another multifamily, it's not another big stock purchase. This is something that's going to, give an opportunity for investors to say, hey, I was part of this.
Are they targeting the baby boomers to live there?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, the end users will be targeted by the marketing company, but I'm on the part of getting it up and running and getting it developed, doing the horizontal construction and the vertical construction, and all of these parts are in place. And at this point, we're, in the early phases of raising funds.
Gotcha. Any idea when they're looking to actually open?
Not yet, because there's some complications I can't talk about right now, but you know, I would say groundbreaking could be early 26.
Interesting. That could be really a fun thing to be involved with. And do you want to say anything more about do you have minimum investment that you want to quote, or you want to just have people reach
Well,
out to you?
I'd rather them reach out to me, credit investors only, and we can discuss all the parameters of what's happening there.
Okay. Well, now there's one other thing we should talk about, and that's how you have a very interesting tradition of traveling to many places. I'd like you to share about that because that is one of the best things that this life can do for you is help you to be able to do things that you want to do, right? So tell
Yes.
us what you're doing in that regard.
Well, actually, I started traveling at 23 or 4. I just graduated from college. And a friend and I worked in the lab back then because I was a scientist by school standards. I got a degree in microbiology. I left that pretty quickly, but um, we picked up a newspaper. Back in those days, the New York Times had a full page um, back section only dedicated to travel, Liberty Travel to be exact, I remember. And it said, fly to Aruba, and the price was very reasonable. So we didn't even know where Aruba was, but it sounded exotic. So me and my friend booked a flight to Aruba, and I've been a travel junkie ever since. And to date, I visited 44 countries, countless number of cities. I've spent the night in 45 US states, got 5 more to go. And my completion of the US alphabet, the American alphabet, is only 4 letters shy. Been to every been to every continent except for Antarctica, and that is definitely on the list.
Ooh, okay. That's interesting. Yeah. And so what are your 4 letters
The 4
left?
letters that I have left in the alphabet is L, R, W, and Z. So either Latvia or Lithuania will get a visit, or maybe Liechtenstein. R, I'm hoping for Russia, but I'll settle for Romania or Rwanda. W, the only W we have is Wales, so I'll make that stop there. And Z is Zimbabwe or Zambia, and I will make a stop there as well.
And do you combine these, or are they separate trips each time?
I try to combine as many as I can. So my little travel trick is if there's a connecting flight and it happens to be going to one of these places, I will extend the connection by a week or two and visit both places. And sometimes I plan it that way. Sometimes it luckily is that way. Like last year, I was going to Colombia and Panama was a stopover. So I said, okay, let's spend 2 weeks in Panama and then we'll continue on to Colombia.
Nice, nice. Have you ever run into any violent situations while you were doing that?
You know, that's a question I get often
Really?
by people that hear that I travel so much. And honestly, I've never felt unsafe in any country I've ever visited. Um,
Nice.
you know, because the thing is, there are wealthy places and there are poor places and violent places in every part of the world, including where we're at now. You know, so never ever once felt unsafe.
Which means you're a good planner, probably.
I mean, I'm general. No, you know, the funny part about that is that I tend to want to look for the unsafe places. Why? I don't know, but I genuinely want to know how the natives and the poor people live. And up until maybe 5 or 10 years ago, I stopped doing that. My wife told me to stop, you know, but I would find neighborhoods where, you know, the less fortunate lived and, you know, be able to go there and perhaps give a meal to somebody or whatever. And they've never made me feel unsafe, you know. I think they see me as a visitor who means well and never had a problem.
Well, that's
You know, but
great. That
my
is.
my candid question to get to these places, I would get a cab or I'd ask the concierge or whatever. Generally the cab driver, because he's going to get me there. These are the days before Uber. I would say, hey, where did you and your family last go out to dinner? And they'd hesitate always because they think you want to be in a tourist area. And I said, no, I really want to go there. And they're often uncomfortable with it, but with a little talking, they usually will say, I went to whatever, and take me to that neighborhood. Now, what I accomplish with that is one, I get to see how the real people who live there, not the tourists, live. And two, I get an authentic meal. And if a cab driver can afford it, it's probably cheap. So you get a lot out of that question. And
Right.
again, I've had cab drivers say, no, I can't take you there. You won't like it. And I'm like, are you going to stay? He's like, yeah, I'll buy you dinner and you come along.
Nice. That's a good trick. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done that meandering a couple times when we were in Jamaica and Dominican.
Okay.
So yeah. But you got to be the right people if you're a woman, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, as a woman, it's probably, you're not going to do some of the things I've done, but, you know, I've gone all over and just, like I said,
That's
every
terrific.
continent except for Antarctica. That's still
Yeah.
on the list.
Well, I hope that you meet all your dreams there. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I need to ask you the question I ask everybody towards the end here, since we're wrapping it up. And tell me, is there a pivotal person or event that's either shaped your life or brought you to where you are or pushing you towards some set goal?
This is I don't know how much time you have, but I want to tell somewhat, I think, a long story, but it's important. So I had a professor when I was a freshman in college. And he kept, some students that weren't performing after class. And I was one of those students because I had zero discipline as a 17-year-old freshman. And he had this ritual of locking you out of class if you were late. Now, this is college. I paid for it, but I couldn't go to class if I was late. And he would lock the door. And he'd keep me after class, and he told me I didn't have any discipline. After the semester ended, he said, you need to go to the service, Mr. Georges, as he called us all by our last name, because you don't have the discipline to go to a four-year college, because I went to a community college first. And I went on to the four-year college, not listening to him. That first semester in the four-year college, without any discipline, I got a 0.68 GPA. Not a 1.68, a 0.68. I was put on academic probation, and the first voice I heard in my head was Professor DeHaven. That was his name.
DeHaven?
DeHaven. And I heard that voice, and I knew right then and there I had to get my act together. So I became a very punctual person because of him locking me out. And I always took value in trying to learn after that experience. I'm still a learner today. So fast forward, my life becomes what I couldn't even imagine as a dream by the time I was in my early 30s. And I said, you know what? I really got to go thank Professor DeHaven for his advice. I prolonged it for 3 years. I procrastinated on it. Then finally I said, you know what, Phil, you really got to go do this. I picked up the phone. I called the school. I said, hey, can you schedule an appointment with me for Professor DeHaven? They said, oh, I'm so sorry, you didn't know. And I said, no, what? They said, well, he passed away last year. So here we go. I've told this story thousands of times. I get emotional every time I tell it. However, he taught me one more lesson in his death. Don't procrastinate. Do it now. When you think of someone, call that person. When you, just do it. So I learned that lesson in his death, and I was sharing it with someone. I went to this program that they have locally called Dudes and Donuts, and this is where dads go have breakfast with children that don't necessarily have a dad in their life. And we're at the middle school, and I saw a friend who had made it in life, and I said, hey, what are you doing here? And he says, well, you see the lady over there? And I says, oh yeah, she's the principal. And he says, well, she was my first grade teacher. And I said, do me a favor, go over there, thank her, and tell her you made it. He did. 2 days later, he called me up. He sounded very shaken. And I said, what's the matter? He said, I just want to let you know I want to thank you. But she passed away this morning. Like I said, told the story 1,000 times. I always get emotional when I tell the story. So don't procrastinate, be punctual, and that was DeHaven.
That's a great story. Yeah, I hadn't heard that before. We talked about a lot of stuff, but those are great lessons.
Yeah.
I have a dear friend who didn't get along with her mother for decades. She was abused as a child, and so she hung out with my parents. And she finally found the forgiveness to go see her mom and missed her by a day.
Mm.
It was, yep. But yeah, it's
all of my friends will tell you that they get shocked and amazed by the number of times I would call somebody out of the blue because I live by the principle. If you come to mine and I have the time, I'm going to give you a call. If you're sick, I'm going to come see you or at least call you because tomorrow is not promised.
Yeah, that's really good. I tend to do that too. I connect with people a lot, and I think of that kind of thing without thinking of it like that. But yeah, that's a great lesson and in life. I mean, for everything. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. Yes. Um, okay, so tell people how they can get in touch with you, and most especially for if they're interested in that wellness center, keep that in mind. And also just to say thank you too for all the time you've taken out of your, and I'm going to say thank you myself for all the volunteer hours you've put forward for people to learn from you.
Yeah, a lot of volunteer hours. If you are looking to get a hold of me, you can find me at Phil Georges on LinkedIn. I think I'm the first one that comes up. Um, Also, if you want to call, my number is 407-796-1225.
Right, great. Well, and we'll put that in the show notes, and it'll probably go live probably in a month or so. But yes, super. Well, thank you so much. It's great that I was able to get you on the show. I know you don't usually do this kind of stuff, so I really appreciate it.
No problem. No
But
problem.
very good. Well, thank you again.
All right.
Sure.
Good luck.